We interrupt this program to bring you a special news.
Interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Bring you this important bulletin from the United Press.
This is not a test. Every Tuesday, the Journey into Comics Network will bring you The Poor Rapport, your one-stop podcast shop for everything news and topics of personal interest. I am your host, Andrew Poor, and you can hear me every Tuesday.
The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics, the podcast about everything nerd, with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stone.
We've come a long way from the Prime Minister's exploding cake. Or have we?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Journey into Comics. It's episode 166. I'm your host, Nate, and today we're going to take things to the upside down. It's all about Stranger Things. I've brought a couple friends along. As always, joining me on the podcast today, my co-host, Brando. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again, Nate. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing really good. I've been really amped up to do this show since we decided we wanted to do this show, and then I didn't finish the show. So we had to delay this by a week. But I'm so excited to finally be doing it. Today we've brought a couple guests along. I will let you introduce your side co-host for the day.
Well, this is the very first time we're actually doing a podcast together. She has her own show here on the Journey to Comics Network. The co-host of But Stuff, my wife, Caitlin.
Hi.
Dude, Caitlin, how does it feel to finally be... I think this is like... I'm trying to think about this now. You were on one episode, like Holiday Bullshit 2?
Oh, yeah. When I almost peed on the couch?
When you almost peed on Joanna's couch. But I don't think you've appeared on like a regular episode of this show to like nerd out. And
no.
I'm really excited that you're joining us today. I'm a huge fan of Butt Stuff. So, well, podcast, Butt Stuff podcast. See, you got me there.
Same.
Gotcha.
Your show is just, it's serving its purpose well. Today, joining me as my co-host, she is also a part of the Journey into Comics Network family, co-host and co-creator of Foodies Watching Movies. Veronica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here. Brando, what do you think? We're going to talk about Stranger Things today, but I feel like how do you even begin this unless we kind of reflect a little bit on like the going-ons of season 1 and how they built this universe? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because like we never did a show covering Stranger Things proper for season 1. We watched it. We didn't watch it in stereo, kind of like we did this time. I think you guys had watched it first when it first came out, and we waited until like the holiday, like when I had time off from work, and we just kind of binged it over a day or two and watched it that way. And we sort of sprinkled in some conversation here and there, but to really dive in to do a special about the new season here, like what they were able to do with this show, it's funny because I remember when we first started watching it, I said, wow, this is almost like they had taken like Steven Spielberg, the 80s Spielberg, and put a little bit of Stephen King dust on it. And literally in the show, they say this is like Stephen King stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to say it was like maybe 10 minutes later that they had said that, and it blew me away. But they were able to really do something unique with this and create not just a nostalgia show, but a really good kind of like a sci-fi story that if you would put the film grain on this and release it on VHS, you would for a second think that this was actually made in the 80s.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
They were able to do such a good job. They got such a great cast. All the kids are really well cast. The only downside from season 1 is that we don't get a whole lot of Will, who's the character who gets kidnapped or gets lost into the Upside Down for pretty much the entire season. But the best thing about that is that they make up for that with the season that we're really going to talk about. But they were able to there was also a little bit of a little bit of X-Files type stuff here, with like the government and all that kind of stuff being involved, and I just really feel like they made a good basis for where they could go. And I also kind of said before that besides the little teasers that they put in towards the end of like the very last episode, that there was going to be more to come. They could have maybe found a way to end it and have it just be maybe the only like unanswered question would be whatever happened to 11.
Yeah, you could have definitely wrapped that season and left that as the only unanswered question, for sure.
And sure, it would leave you wondering, but that's like a good question to leave you wondering, because then your mind makes up different theories and all this kind of stuff. But because it was a good, well wrapped up story by the end of it, like there wasn't like they could definitely do more with it, but they wouldn't have had to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the tail end of season 1. There are a couple little things, and we were watching Beyond Stranger Things today, and the Duffer Brothers were talking about there were only 2 things they really wanted to leave. Will's not all better from being in the Upside Down, and you see that, there's the scene where he's in front of the mirror. It glitches to the Upside Down. He's, spits what we learn is dart out of his mouth. And then the Eggo's being left for 11. So when this next season picks up, the groundwork has been laid out. We know that Hopper's going to have something to do with 11, and I love, right out of the gate where that is. But just getting down into it, let's start with a little bit of Q&A here around the first couple episodes. What did you guys think about the first 2 or 3 episodes of this season? We'll start with Caitlin first.
I really enjoyed them. I mean, I enjoyed the entire season, both of them. But I liked that we got to see a little bit more of Will, and we get to see what's going on at Hawkins National Lab, because in the first couple episodes he has his first episode, if that makes sense. And yeah, I enjoyed them.
Awesome. V, what did you think about the first few? Is there anything that kind of stood out in your mind as they hit the ground running? I can't wait to see where this season takes us.
Well, we totally just finished watching it recently, so it's still fresh in my head, and I was obsessed with the season just as much as I was the first season. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm super pleased that we binge watched it, and I thought the first couple of episodes were great because it was kind of doing a lot of character development. I know there was a lot of talk about episode 7 being either a hit or miss episode. Some people loved it, some people hated it. What do you think about episode 7? It's the standalone episode with 11 and her backstory with 8, who we learn is her sister in the lab.
Man, you just threw that's a great question. So if we're jumping to episode 7 here to cover that real quick, as we're going all over the place, and that's awesome in typical Journey into Comics fashion.
Sorry, tangent.
No, that's fine, because if we're talking just specifically about that, because I think it's a good place to go, because it doesn't do a lot for the main episode or the main arc of the season, but it does help to further 11 to meet the rest of the group at the end and choose her path, whether she continues on with 8 and lives this life of crime where she's little punk rock badass 11, or if she's
where her home is, where she fits in,
or if she's going to decide I'm going to go ahead and just go back and help Will in the group Mike in the group because they need me, and she can sense that. And that's one thing I want to say too is this season had to do such amazing things, because Season 1, these characters are developed to a point, and you could kind of just play that same archetype for every character and have no change. But this season did a really good job of moving the chess pieces around, going, you know what? We're going to put Will with Steve, and we're going to put Lucas, or Will with
like
Steve.
Dustin
I meant
with
Dustin
Steve.
with Steve.
Yeah.
And,
Their bromance is like rapidly becoming my favorite thing about Stranger Things too.
Yes.
Their like interactions with each other, it was pretty cute.
Steve is my MVP for this season.
Yeah,
Like,
Steve the MVP, the unsung hero.
or most improved player. I'm not sure how you'd word that, but he went from like my least favorite season 1 character because he's just so douchey to like turn into this character now where he's like really funny and genuine, and he's trying to do the right thing, and he's taken almost being a parental figure to these kids a little more seriously. He's trying to protect them.
He totally reminded me of Josh Brolin from Goonies. His character. There's a lot of Goonies references.
Absolutely.
With Sean Astin, of course, which I loved. I loved Bob. He was my new favorite character. R.I.P.
Bob
Spoilers
movie.
ahead. Anyway.
I'm gonna jump back because I don't want to forget about this. We were talking about the first couple episodes, and I wanted to start there because Brando. I want to get your thoughts on the first couple episodes when the arcade is so heavily featured. And like as a gamer myself and a nerd, like that was so much fun to be having them explore that world. And like the episode title is Mad Max, and that it can be like a double callback reference, the 80s Mel Gibson movie Mad Max, and or just talking about a character getting the top spot in Dig Dug. What did you think about that? How the arcade stuff went down?
Well, first of all, to answer the first part of your question about the first couple of episodes, I liked how everything slowed down to set up the new basis for the new season. It just didn't hit the ground running. It established the new norm. It was a year later. Things had calmed down. For almost everybody except for Will due to the post-traumatic stress or anything like that.
Yeah, that kid is never going to be normal again.
Right, but as far as everything else goes, it's like you're just kind of seeing them live out their daily life, and the arcade serves in this season like the Dungeons and Dragons did for the first season.
Yes, absolutely.
As a setting to sort of like get the kids together, something that they can all enjoy together, something that they kind of corral around.
Right.
And of course, being a video gamer, it was pretty cool to see some of that, and especially to see like such a prominent center on Dig Dug was pretty funny too. That they chose that particular machine or game to really help be the cornerstone of introducing a brand new character to the group, which I thought was also pretty well done. In that regard, but that's also like the arcade stuff is the first time that we see Will have a so-called episode, or rather what seems to be like he can just kind of like he's kind of stuck in between our world and the Upside Down. He can like sort of see into the Upside Down and interact with it without going into the sort of like big fuzzy like gooey looking portal vagina type thing that's in Hawkins' lab.
And apparently also under some random fields.
Yes, of course, yes. It just has like some caverns.
Right, I think that's it in like Beyond Stranger Things, that Netflix extra show or whatever we were watching earlier. They said that they chose that game because it was supposed to like mirror the
The parallels.
Yeah, thanks.
Of like the tunnels below Hawkins and the tunnels in Dig Dug. And then, I think they referenced that it had something to do with the Mind Flayer and the Spy too, with Dig Dug, but I don't remember. I can't recall.
They do a lot of cool interaction and double meaning and analogy stuff like with the Dig Dug, and then the caverns going through Hawkins, and then of course at the end of course we'll get there, but the song that they choose to end the season with kind of parallels with like It's Not Over Yet, with the whole police
song,
yeah,
that creepy stalker song.
Like Yeah.
Every breath you take, or something.
And like every breath you take, I'll be watching you. And then of course,
Yeah, that's a creepy song.
I love that song though. I love the beat.
It's a good song, but it's creepy.
You would.
I really like some Sting and Police stuff, man. It's pretty cool. Even so much that Bruno Mars even knocks him off from time to time.
Yeah, he does. This season was really good about, as I was saying, doing the character building. So let's talk about a little bit about some of the new characters we have here to introduce. We get, you've talked a little bit about Max. You've got Max's brother Billy is a newbie. You've got Bob, Dr. Owens. We've got 8. I'm trying to think. Is there? Murray. You can't forget Murray.
Oh yeah, the creepy pedophile drunk guy. Not my favorite character.
I kind of liked him.
Yeah, I mean he was funny, and I guess because this takes place in the 80s and it's less PC, you can kind of get away with saying weird things in front of high school kids, I guess. But yeah, he was kind of a.
He totally
sleaze.
Coerced Jonathan and Nancy to bone, though.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a long-awaited union. One of the things that I love about Stranger Things is that they never it's always satisfying. I'm always satisfied after I'm done binge watching that show. Like everything that I wanted to have happen happens.
It's like even though they leave you hanging a little bit, everything is still kind of buttoned up and neat and tidy.
Right. And I'm okay with that because it leaves me excited for the next season, which, Nate, weren't you telling me there was only going to be like 4 seasons total or something like that?
Correct. Brando and I covered that a couple Journey into Comics ago.
One thing I really liked about this season as well is, and we've already mentioned it, but every single main character has growth. They do something with them.
Absolutely.
No main character that started this season ended it in the same place.
Right.
And I think that's a job well done because it's very easy with only having a limited number of episodes. This is why I like this shorter television stuff because it really challenges you to write good, cohesive television.
Right, and this show doesn't shy away from just character development straight up, as well as plot. It's the whole thing, the whole package.
There was only, as we mentioned, episode 7, there's only the one episode that really deviates and only kind of focuses on, one main character. Right. But that was a story that needed to happen.
Right, to further the plot line to get her to where she needed to go.
Yes. Imagine if this show was 24 episodes.
Right.
It would probably be too much.
Sure, we all want more Stranger Things. It's a good show. But as you said, it might be too much. You would have a full episode devoted to Mike's mom.
Right.
And,
oh, God.
Oh, my gosh.
The most absent parent in the entire show.
Can we just take a second to talk about... Okay, so they were the most, oblivious parents in season 1 and 2.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
more so in season 2.
More so.
But those people are real. Those were real people. Believe me.
They're kids. They haven't been home in days.
Right.
Don't they have school?
Well, they're at alleys, whatever.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
my
they're over there.
Mom.
They're doing this.
Okay.
Doing
I'll be in my bathtub drinking Chardonnay.
Staying at Will's
flirting
house.
with someone's teenage brother.
Yes, the whole sexual tension between Mike's mom and Billy was
oh my God, he's so gross in this show.
He's not gross in real life. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Nate wasn't aware that he's really Australian.
He's Australian. He played, he was Jason in the new Power Rangers movie.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's like a studly looking, almost Helmsworth-esque looking handsome motherfucker, on that level.
Yes, he's very Australian.
And he totally killed me thinking he was a sleazy actual American, because I thought they just, found somebody who's really that person. He does such a great job of looking that role.
They pulled an actual racist out of Indiana for this show?
It's not a far stretch. Not a far stretch at all. I mean,
yeah,
no.
I feel like I feel like my mom went to high school with a guy like that.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Looking back at Herald yearbooks and stuff.
He kind of reminds me of what Billy Madison was when he was first in high school.
Yeah.
And then because
but
when you see him go back to high school,
horrible home life thing. you know.
Well,
like, how
yeah,
about that
okay.
scene? That was fucking terrible to watch. Like, it made me very uncomfortable when he started crying. Because it's like, you want to fucking hate this guy, but they're trying to slightly humanize him in this way, like, to explain why he is the way he is and why he's so angry, you know.
But that's a good touch, though, because then you do get it. And
it gives his character more complexity, and he's not just like this antagonist douchebag.
He's not without sympathy.
Right.
Because then, at that point, in that moment, yes, this guy's a douchebag.
But he's taking his shit out on Steve.
Yeah, and but what I was saying though is that like I just remembered like when I saw this guy like racing down like the streets and listening to less music, it reminded me of the scene from Billy Madison when Adam Sandler pulls up to the high school in his car with his jean jacket, with his tour shirt on, blaring Billy Squier, and acting like he's all cool, and all like the 90s
Didn't he
kids
have like
are
a Thunderbird or something?
Yes, exactly.
Or a Firebird. I think it was a Firebird.
Yeah, it was a Firebird.
It was a Firebird.
But no, Billy is one of those characters that he has to be the villain, and he does serve a purpose because he makes you hate Steve less. So, like, the transition from Steve kind of, he does find a lot of redemption in season 1, Steve's character does, but by season 2, the midpoint, you're just like, man, this guy's kind of awesome. And then
Steve becomes everybody's
because
dad.
he's suffering from. He doesn't get Nancy's ultimate goal of like she wants justice for Barb for real, and he doesn't realize how far she's willing to take that. And Jonathan is, so he facilitates that for her. I'm going to help you solve this case. I'm going to help you close that chapter. And it makes it hard for Steve because then there's a wedge driven between them. So, like I said, I think the Billy being so shitty right when Steve is, like, getting dumped and having all this shit go wrong with him helps you to really go, okay, I can sympathize with that. And this other dude sucks. So, I enjoyed that. Also, who else? Oh, speaking of Jonathan Byers, another character who is totally not going to affect me anymore when I watch the series, because he's from Britain. He's not an American dude, and I thought he was just like a kind of like, mediocre human, like kind of skeezy
human?
Dude. American
mediocre human.
Just like
average looking human.
He was just like an average. He was just like an average American, or not even average. But now I realize he's just like a normal British person.
Right.
He's just like a British dude.
He makes me think of like who would be Eddie Furlong's like younger brother.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Did you know that Charlie Heaton, I think is his name, he's the guy that plays Jonathan Byers, missed the premiere of Stranger Things 2? Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What,
some
he
drug
was
use. He got
cocaine or
caught
something,
coming into
right?
the country with cocaine.
Yeah.
La cocaine.
Rough.
That's
One
pretty
snort,
dumb.
Johnny.
I don't know how I feel about that. That bums me out to learn that happened.
Come on,
No
he's
bigot.
celebrating his life, and he's probably got a little bit more money than what he's used to, and I'm sure he's not.
I have no idea. I have nothing about this man as a person.
I didn't know he was British. That threw me off.
So is Millie Bobby Brown.
That didn't
Yeah.
surprise me, but she did interviews and stuff like pretty like quickly after the first season. She had most of the press.
Right.
This season, I think that, at least from watching Beyond Stranger Things, they did a good job about like featuring almost everyone. I think only like a couple of the big name people didn't. Actually, only one person from the cast that I can think of didn't send anything in or say anything, and that was Winona Ryder.
Oh yeah.
Everybody
she
else
didn't.
was a part of it in
Yeah.
some way. Like David Harbour did like sent in things and talked about stuff or whatever. But anyways, let's move on, Brando. Where should we go from here, my friend? We've just kind of been like whirlwind talking.
Random tangents of Stranger Things.
Yeah, so like they slowly start reinserting the Upside Down back into the Hawkins town, I guess you could say, through reports of like rotten crop for like pumpkins, and that was a result of the ground underneath, something is like tunneling or spreading underground, and it is affecting the crops, and of course the dudes are like, like holding up pitchforks, like, dude, he's poisoning my crops.
Everybody's blaming everybody.
Yeah. But this leads ultimately, eventually, then we get the whole Dart storyline, which, we actually missed where the boys for Halloween went as the Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun reference. Another thing I love about Stranger Things, I'm just going to keep listing these off randomly throughout the show tonight, but another thing is all of the fun Easter eggs. Like the Ghostbusters was fun, and I love that they were fighting over who got to be Venkman. That was cute.
I don't know if they heard you because you got kind of quiet.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You got to definitely talk up on the podcast. They can only hear you through
Sorry, I'm slouching. Hold on.
But no, she was saying that that she really enjoyed the argument of who was going to be Venkman.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That was a nice little, tongue-in-cheek racist type thing, but it wasn't like offensively racist, because it was just sort of like...
It was 80s racist.
Dipping the toe in the water, but like more like insinuating that, but
it was expected because he's black.
Right, exactly. The argument for Venkman was really cool, and of course they show up to school, and they're the only ones dressed up as the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's
they're the only ones dressed up.
Have happened.
Well, that's right. Well, that's kind of what I meant to say, is that they were the only ones dressed up at all.
It's like
and
high
of course
school
they're walking down the
humiliation.
hall, and it's funny because these 4 kids were kind of like involved in the whole drama and mess of a year ago, and everyone just in this town has just sort of very quickly kind of forgotten, like, oh, these are the nerdy kids,
right?
Other than like Will, he's like, what do they call him, Zombie Boy, or
yeah.
I thought it was weird at the end where the girl's like, "Do you want to dance, Zombie Boy," or whatever?
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Yeah, sure."
Okay.
Okay.
That was a great way to end the season. Spoilers, obviously. The snowball dance or something like that. What was it called?
Yeah, the snowball dance.
Or something.
Yeah.
I liked the introduction of a bigger bad than just from the quote Demogorgon. I like that one even better. But
he's sort of Gordon.
Like the Mind Flayer, like they call him. They bring back the D&D stuff to name the villain, which is I thought a nice touch. But they bring in a bigger bad that's more cerebral and like more dangerous than just something that chases after you.
Right. It has a goal. It has an end game.
Right. It has
sentient.
some sort of intelligence other than just an animal. And then of course it seems to have some sort of culling or control over the little like smaller, younger Demogorgons.
The Demogorgons. Yeah, the little Demodogs. I loved that it was like the hive mind mentality, and they kind of, dive into that more and more. I'm trying to think about how this all takes place. I feel like, isn't episode 3... No, it's episode 4 when Will gets overtaken, right? By the Mind Flayer, or is that episode 3? I'm trying to call back.
After Bob's epic speech about standing up for himself, which was bad advice in the end.
That was the worst advice.
Yeah.
Well, that was funny because he actually thinks he's doing the right thing for this, because Bob has no
right.
sense
He's got
of
the
knowing.
best intentions.
Yeah, of course, but ultimately that's what leads the season along in getting Will, who is naturally trying to run away from this, to stop, and then ultimately being a pawn later on that makes that possible for the season to continue.
Yeah, and like right out of the gate when Will is overtaken and he's like, no, it's too hot. He likes it cold. I was like, oh shit. Will's possessed. This is not going to turn out good. Like,
I love a good possession story.
Will, buddy, you have struck out 2 seasons in a row. First season you're a lost boy, now you're a possessed boy.
No, this poor kid. He's going to be
Gotta
so
call Ed
damaged.
Wonder if next season they'll kill him and unkill him or something. Hawkins will resurrect Will and he'll be a real zombie boy.
God.
Like,
dark.
He has the worst luck. Like Bob Newby. Bob Newby had the worst luck also.
Superhero. R.I.P.
yeah, we've said it. I mean, he's Sean Astin's character was awesome because there's so many little nods to the Goonies and stuff. You know, like.
I loved all the 80s references in Stranger Things. Although I can't really think of what my favorite one would be. There was too many.
Yeah, there's a lot. What did you think of? We were talking about the Halloween episode. That was episode 2. Max's role in this series. It's starting to pick up a little bit, and her character really takes to the spotlight, the forefront of the season. She becomes the new female lead, kind of, because the group is without 11, and 11 is without her group. And there's this interesting, dichotomy where Max is,
like the replacement.
The replacement, and she's trying to fit in, though. And some of the group wants her to, which is very sensible for a group of boys. Oh, yeah, of course, we'll have the girl join our team. And then there's huge resistance from Mike. And then Will just doesn't have any fucking idea what's really going on because there's something in his brain.
Because he's just completely fucked at this point.
And she jumps in with both feet. She's just like, yeah, we're going on an adventure. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very much so. And I loved how...
Well, if I had that home life, I would too.
For real.
Yeah.
But I loved how Lucas told her the truth. And really breaks it down to her like, hey, this is what happened to us last year. Like, this is the shit we went through. And she's like, oh, that was great creative writing. Without saying it was great creative writing. She was like, oh, that was a really good story. I would have... It was a little obvious there at the end what you were going to do or whatever, but, and then she comes to learn that it's, not a lie. Lucas is like, you don't get it. This is not a joke.
I like how Bob, got pulled into the mix as well. His whole role was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was like the Goonies reference with the treasure map, trying to figure out, it's like a puzzle, trying to figure out, what's going on, or where Hopper is, right?
Yeah, where Hopper went because he fell in the hole.
Right, and then he just thinks that it's a game, and then it turns into, him getting sucked into the reality of the situation and becoming aware of it and being like, oh, well, this is interesting. He was pretty chill about the whole thing.
Yeah, Bob was definitely... his character was fun because he really was the hero. He had a lot of great advice. He did a lot of good things.
Yeah, I can't say enough nice things about Bob.
And then they just made sure you knew he was really, really, really fucking
really dead.
He's...
Rude.
He's... No questions about it, folks. There are 4 demodogs eating the middle of his torso meat.
Yeah, that was uncalled for.
Man, it was uncomfortable when they shot back to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really.
I didn't like that.
We were talking about Max, though, and you jumped to Bob for a second.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Bob was my favorite.
I want to know about, the Stone's opinion of Max, because she is the new character that kind of filled 11's shoes, and she did have a hard role to play, really, being unwanted and wanted, so dearly. What did you guys think?
I like how they made her character stand out, especially given the archetype for the character when you first see her. There's this almost seems like generic tomboy character kind of coming in.
Yeah,
but then you start seeing that she's more of a tomboy, in essence, due to her environment, because her brother is the way that he is. Bosses her around. She has to be tough. She has to be she kind of portrays
very
herself
Californian.
That also makes her different from the other female lead with 11. And I mean, 11 is 11 is the powerhouse,
Right.
And they took her in strides in this season. Of course, in the first season, they were trying to remember how they played dress up with her, or trying to make her make her blend in, and
the
she
ridiculous
did
blonde wig.
But then, she seems very tomboyish when you first see her, due to the actual look of the hair, the style, due to how they kind of kept her at Hawkins' lab.
Mm-hmm.
But then in this season, her change is sort of she's becoming more feminine within her look. And then here you are, and so now you're met with these 2 female characters who are part of the party, who are definitely in different places, and they're not gonna like overstep each other. They're each gonna have their spot and their
and you
space
get
and their
a
own
taste of like
character.
Eleven's cattiness in that gymnasium scene where she like makes her skateboard fly out from under her feet.
Yeah,
out
that
of
was
spite
fun.
for talking to Mike. She's like,
Don't you fuck with my
scary.
man.
Yeah, don't fuck with Eleven's man.
I didn't know who was going next, so I guess I'll take back over. The powers of Skype Land. So, one thing I want to talk about with Max is she was a character who was put in an interesting position because she had to be a part of a really like undertone racial issue that was happening with her brother. And man, there were some real legitimate cringeworthy moments that came from that. Just like, oh my god, this person really exists. And it's so just kind of gross and not pleasant. Go ahead, Brando.
I like how they did it, but didn't overtly say it.
Yeah, it was
never like, you can't see him because he's black. It's
Honestly,
just like,
I think
don't hang
if it
out with
was
him.
anybody, he would have reacted the same way. If she was talking to anyone, he would have been like trying to isolate her because he's a bully and a piece of shit.
Okay.
Yeah, but then even so much more. That just brings up like that. That's something that is like something that ties even what's been going on in like today's society to some extent into the show that is set back then, which of course it was of course going on back then as well. But it ties that into a nice little bow where they're tackling those issues within a nostalgic piece show.
Right.
But that also shows us that things haven't really changed all that much.
Right. I mean, because these assholes still exist,
Right.
Absolutely. So moving on in the season, we talk a little bit about Dig Dug. Hopper goes under. He thinks he solved the great mystery of what's going on. He starts digging the vines. The hole opens up. He gets sucked down. He ends up in like the death pit or whatever. This season did a good job of leaving you going, oh my gosh, there might not be hope for everyone to make it out okay. And like we obviously talked about Bob, but there are other characters who are definitely in jeopardy throughout this season in various moments. To talk about Hopper a little bit there. To talk about how bludgeoned Steve got when he got the shit kicked out of him by Billy. I mean, there are like...
he was doing good for a while. He
put up a fight.
He put up a pretty good
but
fight.
But then that just didn't matter.
I'm not sure
Max
his nose
took
is
over.
going to make it through another season.
I know, they fuck him up every season, it seems. It's like each season, let's fuck up his face worse.
I loved the scene with Dustin and Steve going down the train tracks, by the way.
A very Stand By Me episode.
And just like dropping the meat, they're trying to lure Dart. And at this point in the show, you're like, they've only got Dart to worry about.
Right.
What's the plan? And they're luring Dart to this like junkyard type place that they've planned and they've got it all set up. And Lucas and Max meet Steven and Dustin there. And nighttime befalls the bus. And they start to hear that Dart's coming. And Steve's like, oh, I got it. I'll go handle this.
Right, with
He's
his
not taking the bait.
Lucille-esque,
Yes, with the
whoop-on.
Lucille-esque bat. So he's like, Dart's not taking the bait. I'll be the bait. That's great. That's fine. Except for, spoiler alert, they're like raptors.
Yeah.
And there were a
clever girls.
fuck ton of them. And they caught Steve off guard, and he almost got taken out. That was crazy.
That was a stressful scene.
There were a lot of stressful scenes in this
This was
season.
a stressful season. I feel like Winona Ryder in season 1, her stress level.
That's your stress level from season 2?
Yeah.
And she didn't really have as big a stress level in season 2. Like, she didn't have nearly as much freak out time.
Yeah, season 1 was horrific. I mean, could you imagine having a missing child? No, that's awful.
No, yeah, not at all.
I'd much rather face a monster than that.
Yeah, but I mean, the monster is possessing your kid. That's terrible too. Jesus, I would not be a fan.
At least you can be there to help your kid and save your kid.
Hopefully, or burn him to death. That was fucked up. That was a crazy thing when they started burning the tunnels, and like Will just like started like twitching out.
That was awful.
That was a terrible scene.
As a mother, that was a terrible scene.
Man,
I was like, someone get that kid to a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The whole interrogation type scene where they tried to hide where they were from Will because now the Mind Flayer could use him against the group
to find
because
them.
he didn't know where they were to send the demo dogs. That was really cool. How they ended up like drugging him, and then they like put him up into was it the dryer's garage or shed?
Yeah, but they
like blankets
and cardboard all over.
The damn phone rang.
It's not like your cell phone that you can just turn off the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
The creepy thing about that was when Will was just like, "Let me go," and you're like, "Oh, Will's gone. He's not in there right now. Come back."
I think we're all like, "Oh shit!"
Come back at a later time. This is about to get intense. I loved how this season did a great job of, like I said, they split the groups up and like not everybody was together. 11 spent most of the season not with the group, and I loved that reunion in the second to last episode.
That was a very satisfying moment. Again, the payoff for this show is great.
The wrap up of what happened to her mom.
Whoa.
That was intense. That was really cool to see.
Awful, wasn't it? Holy shit.
And also heartbreaking for her. I mean, of course she's going to be the one to have to relive that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And to understand this person who she just found out is actually still around, is mentally broken, but somehow aware enough to share her story with her.
Right. That was so dark. Ugh, I didn't like that at all.
Well, and from that, though, 11, I think, had an extremely emotionally taxing season this time. Because
that little actress is so amazing, isn't she?
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown. But she had such an emotionally taxing season this season because she deals with the stuff with Mama. And then to go through the scene where she has to relive Papa coming back. You know, she got rid of him in season 1, at least so we think, and there's some, rumblings that he might not be fully gone. But, like, she has to face him because 8's making her face him.
As her weapon.
As her ultimate, fear, And I thought that was just incredible because she had to unlock this new extreme, I guess, or a new level of her powers where she just had to kind of go beyond.
Super Saiyan.
Yeah, she almost had to go Super Saiyan from where 11 was in the first season. That was exactly that, yes.
Yeah, it was a great season. I loved it.
So what did you guys think about the Hopper 11 dynamic with Hopper having you find the story of him losing his daughter in season 1.
Oh yeah, I loved their scenes together were great. Like you have to witness her being locked up in this house for her safety, for her own good, with just this man. But they've got this father-daughter dynamic growing and building throughout their time together, and I really liked that aspect of the story.
I like when he is stuck at the lab and he goes out to use the radio to call on their channel.
Mm-hmm.
And of course she's not home, but then through her connection ability, she ends up hearing him.
Yeah.
And hearing what he says. And I really like that they were somehow able to play magic with her abilities because it seems like she doesn't need to see them in the present.
Right.
Yeah.
Or whatever. At least doesn't seem like it's happening in the present. I guess maybe they could be doing some timey-wimey things where things that are happening with 11 may not be happening in exact time reference with where they're happening in the show, but it doesn't really seem like it. It kind of seems like that she can just emotionally connect with someone or something and then see whatever she needs to see from that.
Right.
And even though they played a little bit of magic with that, it was really cool because that was one of the deciding moments that I feel like made her want to go back.
Yeah, and I loved that talking about like Eleven's powers and her ability. You know, she actually says that because she's talking to Joyce, and she's like, I saw. And no one even bats an eye when she says that. No one's like, how did you see? They're just like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. She was somehow she saw what was going on. No big deal. So I loved her arc in this season. And Hopper, if we're talking about the dynamic with her and Hopper, where the season starts, she's being locked up for her own good. She's got all the different entertainment abilities that she has. She can watch TV and whatnot. And then they play on taking the TV away from her, and it's because she doesn't even care about the TV. She cares about getting lost in the static because she's looking for Will. And they're both on their own journeys, counting how many days they've been apart since the incident at the end of Season 1. I thought that was a beautiful thing. By the time we get to Season 8, or Episode 8 of this season, not Season 8, they're not going to have one, I don't think, but Episode 8 of this season, and when the reunion happens, it's just like, man, the magic in that moment was so impactful and incredible, and I just loved how once 11 joined the group, everyone had their own objective, and the group had to, even though they were all a part of the same team, like 11 and Hopper had to start what they finished and go back, and it's like the beginning of the season it was just 11 and Hopper. Now we're ending the season and they're going back into the Hawkins lab, and it's just 11 and Hopper doing it. And then Steve is watching a majority of the kids and trying to just play protector. The buyers are, gonna burn out Will and get the mind flayer out of him. Have an exorcism with heaters. That was fucking crazy. But then in all of that, Steve's group decides that they can actually be of assistance. And before they get to be of assistance, there's the fight. But Kate, you have a thought. Go ahead. Pull it up.
I was just going to say that they all had to come together and work together and then separate to do their own thing, because none of them would have figured it out on their own. Because they're like operating on different levels.
Yes, they absolutely. And I loved how when earlier in the season Max is trying to join the group and be a part of the group and get her place. She's like, I'm a Zoomer. And they don't really get it, and then we get the scene where she's got to drive the car because Steve has just had the shit kicked out of him, and the boys are all too afraid to really do it, I guess. And
they got to go light some shit on fire.
And they got to light some shit on fire, and Lucas is giving her like shoddy directions of just like, oh shit, you got to turn now. Oh, now is the turn. Like, what are you doing?
And she's like, look, I am valuable to your party.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the Zoomer.
I hope
fast travel.
Yeah, exactly. She's Fast Track or Fast Pass from South Park.
Fractured but whole.
God.
I knew she was going to say, "Oh God," she hates the name of that one.
Well, yeah, you got.
I think it's hilarious.
For a while.
I crunched that game. Bam, bam. Man, I want them to make a Stranger Things like console game. Speaking of,
they do have like it's like a retro 16-bit game for Stranger Things where you play as Hopper.
It's
really?
mobile. Yeah.
That's rad. I tried that.
But I also want to mention another new character that we got introduced to, and that is the guy at the Hawkins lab. I can't remember his
Dr.
name.
Owens.
Dr. Owens.
Oh, Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
How cool was it to have a representative from the Hawkins lab that isn't a total douchebag?
Yeah, he was trying to be fair.
Yeah.
He was like a reasonable, not really bad guy or not really good guy. He was just doing his job.
But he'll still straight up murder your ass,
Well, he still has to be like, well, this and that. But ultimately, he turns out to be helpful to the group. And then, of course, in the end, he does, he upholds his end of the bargain and helps get 11 to have somewhat of a normal life.
Okay, so... go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
like when the Mind Flayer takes control of Will,
Yes.
he sticks up for him because everybody else is just like, well, if he dies, he dies. And he's like, but he's a human.
He turns out to be a pretty decent dude, you know?
Yeah, he does. I have a question. How does he... It's his voice on the tape that condemns Hawkins' lab, because he's talking to Jonathan and Nancy. So, like, when the series, this season wraps up, he helps Hopper out, but he's, like, not in jail or anything. I was kind of confused by that. Like, it's his voice that essentially confesses to all this shit, and he's it seems has not been punished for being a part of Hawkins' lab, and I don't know if that's just because he was just an employee and isn't complicit or whatever they're going to say, but I found that was like one maybe tiny little thing that they didn't explore.
I have no
I think
idea.
maybe at the end of the day, he's just a doctor. And so maybe they can't hold him responsible for everything that went down because he was kind of just trying to clean it up.
Yeah, I like that.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Something they'll never explore.
I'd have to rewatch it
The
and think about
investigation
it.
into Dr. Owens.
I rewatched it, the whole thing.
Oh, you do watch
Season 1 and 2.
I know you
I was
watched
just
season
saying
1,
earlier
so-
I wanted to do that. I was like, man, now that we watched season 2, I really want to watch season 1 again and then season 2 again. But that also kind of like correlates with what I was telling you, Nate, earlier today about this article I read on Facebook saying that if you binge watch TV shows, it releases like more dopamine in your brain, which is like the feel good, hormone or whatever. And when you stop watching it, it like kind of makes you crash a little bit.
So you should keep binge watching shows.
I
Once you
guess
start.
so. It's like a drug, a natural
Just
drug for your
never
brain.
stop.
You could do the whole season of Stranger Things in like a day and a half. The two seasons.
If you were dedicated, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah, if
well,
you
I
had
mean,
that
shit,
kind of
if you woke
time.
up early in the morning and started with episode 1 of season 1, you could probably get it done in a day. It'd be like 17 hours right about.
Yeah.
Well, we
ain't
have to
nobody
watch
got time
How to
for
Train
that.
Your Dragon at least twice a day. So,
You have to watch what?
How to Train Your Dragon
Aw.
every morning, at least.
A dragon movie.
A dragon movie? Yeah,
Ollie
you can
didn't
watch
really
the
like
dragon
that
movie.
one. I think it kind of scared him a little bit when we watched it, but we watched it like when it came out, like maybe I can't remember when.
We moved from Moana to that, and I can't say that I'm mad about it.
Glad that Moana finally ran its course.
Well, no, he watched it today.
Yeah, we watched it today.
We haven't seen Moana yet, but all the little girls at the preschool are talking about Moana, and they're all singing Moana songs now.
It's on Netflix.
Okay, well we'll have to check it out.
Everything's
I love
on
me a good
Netflix.
Disney movie.
Not everything, unfortunately.
So season 10, I think, is going to be... Or season 10. Jesus, my numbers are off,
You
guys.
keep making the
What are you
show
talking
go
about,
longer,
Nate?
Nate.
It's not going to
Put your head in
happen.
the game.
Okay. Season 3 of Stranger Things, I think, will have 10 episodes. And then season 4 of Stranger Things, I feel, is going to have 11.
I see what they did.
Because they
there.
did 8 in season 1, 9 in season 2, and then 10 in season 3, 11 in season 4. It just makes sense to me. It'll be the final season.
That's
They can
good
have a little
symmetry.
little extra story. You know, I don't know. I don't know what the
Well,
Duffer
here's
Brothers
hoping
have
because
planned.
that's a nice marketing opportunity.
Yeah, but again, you don't want to force it. Just let the story tell itself. Well, I once you get where you want to go, just let it go until you feel like it's done. And whether that does take 10 or 11 episodes, or whether that takes 7 or 8, for another one.
I know, but there's so many characters and there's so many, good storylines that they could fill up 11 episodes easily and not make people sick of it.
They were in 8th grade this year,
Yeah.
so next year they're going to be in high school.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's going to be a whole other story arc of them entering a new realm of their life. It's almost like a passage of rite is going into high school and being completely and utterly uncomfortable with yourself.
They're going to go back to being the small fries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I'm really
seem like they're
interested in
super
seeing where they're
popular
gonna go.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they're definitely
Fucking
already small
Stacy.
fries, but it's going to, be amplified. Well, yeah. And then, like, when are Nancy and Jonathan going to graduate? And Steve? They're in high school. What grade were they
Steve
in?
was a senior this year.
Yeah, they're all seniors.
Because he was talking about not going to college and just working for his dad. And I think Nancy's a junior.
Okay.
Is she?
And Jonathan's the same year as
Yeah.
Nancy. Yeah.
Okay.
So, soon.
Well, I like them together as a couple.
That was
I do
weird,
too.
though.
It was adorable.
That was
and
like
awkward and
the
weird.
most awkward sexual tension moment where this drunk dude's just like calling it like he sees it.
I know, with 2 teenage kids, like, that's so inappropriate and fucking weird.
Yeah.
So how was the pullout?
Yeah, it's like, really? These are
The
like
couch.
barely just grown-ups. They're children.
Yeah. But
Ew, when did I turn into one of those grown-ups?
what does that mean? Where
I feel like I'm starting, as I'm getting older, I am 30 now. And as I'm getting older, I feel like I'm starting to resonate with the grown-ups in the movies that I used to love watching, as opposed to like the kids, which are the main characters.
Oh, God, yeah. I feel like I don't relate to them on, like, a kid level. I'm like, now I'm your mom.
Right. Like, I was watching Little Mermaid with Oliver not that long ago, and King Triton was, like, reprimanding his 16-year-old daughter for wanting to run away and get married, like, thinking that she's, like, a grown-up and whatnot. And I was like,
But
oh,
Daddy,
my
I
God. It's like,
love
bitch,
him.
calm down. You're 16. You can't be getting married. What are you thinking? Are you insane?
It's like, you don't love him. You're 16. Just get over it.
Yeah, for real. Like,
So what kind of crap has been going on? We were talking about being more like, mature and adult here. What is going on with the media? And them referring to Millie Bobby Brown as a sexy actress.
Oh, it's
She's
gross.
13.
I don't like it.
oh, I haven't heard anything about that.
Why
I
are
try
they
to live my
doing
life
that?
drama-free.
Okay, so they recently, I don't know what the magazine was, but she was listed as one of the sexiest actresses, right?
That's super weird.
She's 13,
She's
I
like
think,
super
right?
young.
13?
Yeah, she's
That's like
13.
exploitation, like what they did with Tatum O'Neal. Whatever.
So, like, it's just, I personally, I think that there's a lot of really fucked up shit happening in Hollywood now, and I think it's all going to get burnt to the ground, and they're going to have to find a way to start over, because shit's not pretty in that world, and stuff like this should not be happening. Finn Wolfhard, the kid that plays Mike, right?
Yeah.
He came out recently and he's like, don't harass my friends or none of us are going to try to talk to you. Talking about the cast of Stranger Things. They're all younger kids. And he's like, seriously, y'all are adults. You cannot harass us. That's not going to get us anywhere closer to you. It's creepy.
And you can't sexualize children.
Exactly.
Because they're children and that makes you a pedophile.
Right. That's just like Hollywood. You have to be really careful with child actors. I feel like that's why there hasn't been like a lot of things like Stranger Things anymore, because the children are like being mistreated and they just don't even want to deal with it. So nobody's making shows about them anymore.
That's why everybody in High School Musical was like 27.
Right. They cast early 20-somethings to play teenagers.
Oh gosh, what was
Like we don't
was
know.
it the guy in 90210? Which actor was it? He was like 30 or something, 35.
What? Really?
I don't think I'm old enough for that
Luke
show.
Perry.
Well, I'm sorry.
Are you talking about Luke
I'm showing
Perry?
my age here. I used to watch 90210 sometimes when I was a kid,
I led a very sheltered childhood.
and
I think you're talking
I'm looking
about
up
Luke
the
Perry,
original.
right?
Luke Perry. See, I was getting him confused with Matthew Perry, and I'm like, that's not right.
Wrong
Matthew
guy.
Perry's
No,
wrong.
it's the wrong one. Not
Yeah,
Chandler.
Luke Perry. I'm trying to see how old he is now. He's 51 now.
Holy shit.
Luke
And
Perry still
the,
looks pretty good, though.
Beverly
He's
Hills
holding up.
90210 debuted in 1990.
I
Whoa.
can't math that fast. I'm
So
sorry.
I mean,
That was
well, it was
27
like
years ago.
27 years ago.
Oh, true.
So he was
And-
34? No.
It was close to that, but I just remember hearing that and went, that is so weird that they got this dude who is that old to play like a high schooler.
Yeah. It seems kind of unusual for that time period, at least. Like, you'd expect that from the late 90s and into the 2000s, but not so much in the early 90s.
All right, so a couple things I wanted to do on this Stranger Things podcast. If you could tell me one, go ahead, your favorite scene from this season, starting with Veronica. What scene was like your most memorable scene this season?
Well, there was a lot of different things about Stranger Things, too, that I liked this season, but I really did like the relationship between Dustin and Steve and how that unfolded. And I thought they had some really good, funny scenes together, and it was like very like reminiscent of those old 80s coming-of-age movies, and I liked that. It was good. This was a very satisfying season.
Brando?
Wow. As I'm trying to think about what one of my favorite scenes are, and it would be, I liked. Man, you really put me on a spot here, because it's very easy to say, like, the very end when they're at the snowball, and the stalker music is playing, and it flips upside down to show like the upside down high school.
Oh, that was so rad, wasn't it?
Yes, and hovering over the high school is the Mind Flayer. I liked that a lot. And then, as a side, I liked this too. When Billy's hanging out in his room, jamming to some Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
With the Kill 'Em All poster on the wall.
Yes, he did. That album would have just come out the year before.
I know.
So it's like a fairly fresh album if we're talking about Metallica history in regards to the Stranger Things timeline. God, that's a bitchin' album. He was cool as fuck in that regard, but he sucked everywhere else.
God, that guy was so gross. And then he put like cologne all over his. Oh my God.
He put it on his junk too.
Yeah.
Had that cigarette hanging from
He looked like Kiefer Sutherland
so...
from Lost Boys. That fucking earring.
He's trying to be like 80s James Dean, kind of like looking,
Yeah, and those pants.
I like the hair product.
Yeah, the Farrah Fawcett hair.
Conversation with Steve and Dustin. That was really cool. And then Dustin showing up with the hair product in his hair.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun.
And it's just completely different because his hair is so curly.
I know.
Right.
So now it looks like he's got like almost like a Jerry curl going on.
Mm-hmm.
That pompadour.
Yeah.
Cate, what about you? What was your favorite scene or something that was super memorable from this season?
I really liked that we got to see Dustin's mom because
oh my God,
I feel like I connect with her because I'm such a cat lady.
It's so real. I loved her relationship with Dustin and how adorable they were, like laughing together for no reason.
And she's such a supportive mom too. She's like, yeah, you go do the thing.
I know. She's so sweet.
But then
Muse.
I also really liked at the I think it was the last episode when Steve's just like, we're not doing this, and all the other kids are like, yes we are, just you're along for the ride, deal with it. He's like trying to be responsible, and they're just like, we have to go. Right. And it turns out for the best
when he's coaching Dustin in the car, like how to like talk to the girls, and then Dustin does that little purr thing,
the growl.
yeah, don't do that.
I will say, if I'm thinking about favorite scenes from this season, really, I think when the Mind Flayer gets taken out of Will, that scene with the actor that plays Will, Noah Schnapp, and the whole cast that was in that room, Nancy and Jonathan and Joyce, like when Will's getting burnt to fuck up, like, that's an insane and intense scene to live through, to think about, like, putting yourself in Will's position as the kid who's, like, has to go through it, or putting yourself through Joyce Byers' position,
or the brother, Jonathan,
or the brother,
that
like,
was sad.
It's all high stakes. And then if you're Nancy, you're watching your brother's best friend possibly die in front of you. How traumatic.
Yeah, it's a stressful situation
but
for all parties.
I liked that scene. And then also I really loved the scene with Dart, well, not with Dart, but with Steve, Dustin going into the crawl space basement area to see if Dart was still there.
Oh yeah, that was scary.
And of course, whoa, big trouble.
Yeah,
he got out. He figured his way out. So yeah, I liked that a lot.
I like Dart's relationship with Dustin as well, based on mutual love of nougat.
Man, you have to shed a little tear for the Demodog when he's lying there dead next to the nougat wrapper. I was just like, aw, son of a bitch.
I'm definitely Team Dustin there. I love a good nougat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Team Dustin. Nougats are
Three
delicious.
Musketeers for the win. I love them.
I like the mint Three Musketeers. Dark chocolate.
I do not.
I know you don't like chocolate. Or
I don't
minty.
like mint chocolate.
Mint chocolate.
Fuck that shit.
Ugh.
I can't do minty chocolate either. Not really. Unless it's an Andes mint.
Oh, Andes mints are dope.
Those
York
are bomb.
That's the
York
only one.
peppermints.
Ew,
Yeah.
fuck no.
See, I love
hate
minty
mint
chocolate, so I win every time. You could say a minty chocolate. I'm going to be like, yes, that's delicious.
I like that Three Musketeer minty one. It's not around anymore, is it?
I don't think so. I think they quit making them. They only made them for a short run
Well,
there.
that's probably for the best.
Shh. Stop it.
Nate was the only one that liked them.
They have dark chocolate Kit Kat bars now.
I know, we've had them.
Yeah, those are delicious.
It was pretty good. I was like, I'm a big Kit Kat fan.
They had white chocolate ones not that long ago.
Nate, remember the green tea
like
ones that we had that one time?
Yes.
Oh,
Green
yeah,
tea
you
Kit
told
Kats
me you
are the
had...
shit.
That's so weird.
They're delicious.
What the fuck would that even taste like?
Like amazing.
Like they're from Japan, and like they have like 10 million flavors of Kit Kats.
They
and
do.
I want to try them all.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, I love a good
want
matcha,
those.
but I can't imagine it mixed with chocolate.
It's so weird. It was like your instant reaction is to not like it, and then you go, well, it's not that bad, actually.
We're going to tangent to foodies for a second because now I have a question. Have you guys ever had mochi?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Neither of them have
Mochis?
had mochi.
I have...
I'm always down for mochis.
No, mochi is a Japanese ice cream ball that's like in like a protective skin. That sounds really
Oh my
bad.
god, you're doing a terrible job of describing this. Okay, so Whole Foods just opened in down the street, and they have a self-serve mochi bar, and they've got like several different flavors of it, and it's so freaking good. It's like delicious ice cream and like wrapped in some kind of like sticky rice concoction of some sort. And they've got like mango and chocolate and vanilla and coffee and
Red
pistachio
bean.
and red
Oh.
bean green tea, and they're really, really tasty.
Long story short, next time you guys are up, we should go to the mochi bar and have some mochi.
Red bean?
Red bean.
As in...
Red bean.
Red bean.
As in red bean.
As in, I
Well,
said
because
the
I'm
same
thinking-
thing, like what? And he's like, no.
You're
Well, 'cause
thinking
I'm
like
thinking
Bush's
kidney-
baked beans?
No, I'm thinking of like kidney beans.
I didn't
Well,
really like the red bean.
No, it's more like...
Momchi. Yeah, she uses red bean paste a lot in her cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
We watched this Korean woman on YouTube, and she is hilarious. And like all of her videos, she says, "Oh, crunchy, crunchy,
Super crunchy, crunchy.
super crunchy, crunchy."
Super crunchy, crunchy.
Nice.
But she uses red bean paste a lot in her recipes.
I think we'd be foolish before we get out of here today on this little Stranger Things special if we didn't riff a little bit on what we think they could do moving forward. You know, I feel like to predict Season 2 from Season 1, you almost couldn't have. But I feel like the one thing I will say going into Season 3 that will be hopefully this time next year, they have to raise the stakes even more. And I don't know what the chess piece is to do that. Does one of our main characters have to die? Does something crazy like is what makes the stakes go from 0 to 11?
Right. Like they didn't really
Well,
leave it
I
on
mean,
a cliffhanger, you
when
know?
When you're talking about death, that's a really heavy subject. And when you're talking about death in any of the main characters, we've had a character die in each season, but it's always been like a side character.
Starting with the letter B.
Barb. Yeah, Bob and Barb.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, R.I.P. Barb.
Billy's next.
Finally just got justice for Barb.
We can hope.
That would be something, and because it seems like they kind of like that redemption type thing.
Yeah.
and they could do something with Billy to where he's still an asshole, but he dies to save somebody. So
that
they'll be
was
like,
Nate's prediction for his character this season, because I asked him, I was like, what do you think this character is going to be like? He's like, well, I think that he's going to have a redemption story at the end where he's like a hero or something. And I was thinking, no, I think this guy's just here to fuck shit up.
He's just going to continue to be a giant asshole.
Yeah, he was.
Well,
He
no,
was awful.
I think he's going to be an asshole going forward, but I think they might actually, if they kill him, they're definitely not just going to go, now you're glad that he's dead. They're just going to be like, you're glad, but then there's a twinge of, well, he did something good.
Or if he saves
I don't know.
Max
We'll
and
see
like
what
puts
happens.
his ass on the line to save Max.
Yeah.
You know-
And then, of course, maybe also Lucas or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Unexpected.
he actually does, yeah. Where like he wouldn't do it, but then, he does so.
But there's also, like, Dustin and Hopper got exposed to stuff in the Upside Down, so maybe they're going to get fucked up.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
You also have 11 trying to adapt to regular life.
I'm excited about that particular storyline to see what
Because
they're
Jane
going to do with
Hopper.
11 going forward.
Well, because she's now legally adopted.
Right, is she going to go to high
by-
school with them now or what?
Probably not legally.
And I don't know if she could go to high school because I'm not sure where her education level would necessarily be at.
They're still working on
If
the
she even
dictionary.
want to.
Yeah, they're still working on like dictionary and trying to figure out words. So
Telling time.
I feel like she still hasn't adapted, tapped into her true potential. She can like close the Upside Down and do all this crazy. Can't she just like put her hand on a fucking dictionary and take all of its knowledge in immediately?
I feel like she's
Learn
above
by
all of that.
osmosis.
what was that Nickelodeon show with the black kid alien? He could read the whole book by placing his hand on it.
The alien
that-
one.
Crap.
I
Space
used
Cases?
to watch that.
No, that was that.
No,
no,
Space
they were in
Cases was great
space.
though.
I loved Space Cases.
But this
I know,
kid,
I love that
looked up
girl's
in the attic
rainbow
and
hair.
He was like there. It was like American Dad, but way before that.
That's exactly what it was like. I remember that show. It was on like right after The Secret World of Alex Mack.
Yeah,
Where she turned into a T-1000.
pretty much. And
Man,
when
that
she
was a great
burped,
show.
She burped out like radioactive like bubbles.
Something like that.
For real, I feel like somebody needs to Google the name of this show though, because it's going to drive me crazy. Because I really did watch it all the time.
Well, Brandon's on the Google machines right
Brandon's
now.
on
I
it.
see
Get on it, Brando.
So I've already said my MVP for the season is Steve.
Mine's Bob.
Bob. Cate.
Oh, shit. You're putting me on the spot.
Sorry, I
MVP for
didn't
the
realize
season.
we were going to move that quickly into it, or I wouldn't have done that. I thought we were going to take a couple more seconds. It didn't really happen.
It's probably a cop-out, but I'd say Steve, too.
I mean, Steve is just like, damn it, he's so sucky in the first season, and it's not like he's the worst, but he's kind of the worst. And then this season, you see him get his heart broke, and he's trying to have this redemption, and then he's got to, like, completely give up on his
Adventures in
heartbreak.
babysitting.
He's literally in the middle of heartbreak, and Dustin's like, hey, do you still have that bat with the nails? Like, I'll tell you when we get there. Let's go. We've got other shit to do.
And I love that he just had it in his trunk.
And then Steve just turns into this fucking likable guy. Like, you go, oh, I can totally relate to that person. Like, and he's just trying to be helpful. And he's not. This is when he's being exposed to not being the douchey person that he puts on at the high school.
And he was never really as bad as Billy.
No, never on that level.
He was just like a little twat.
Yeah. Destroyed Jonathan
like
Byers'
how-
camera.
I like how when they're at the party, typically Steve would be the one like the life of the party,
Right.
but now he's like babysitting
His drunk girlfriend.
Nancy, and like she's the one kind of going off, and he's just like, I really feel like since the first season he's grown up. It's like he's adulting, and he's getting thrust into this world where now he has to like be the bigger guy, because obviously he's pretty tore up about the whole thing with Nancy, but he's got to move forward. You know, that's what you do as an adult. As an aside, I did find the name of that show.
Sure.
The Journey of Alan Strange.
Yes.
I do not remember that
Thank
show
you.
at all.
I
It
liked
was-
that one.
And then the logo, you can barely see it on here, but like when it says Alan, it almost kind of looks like it could be Alien, and it has like a little like thing.
Q X-Files thing.
Because he's an alien.
So, Brandon, is Steve your MVP as well for the season?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think so, because I really feel like he is probably one of the most developed characters from the very inception of the show going forward. I mean, they've had a lot of development, but he's the one that has he really did a lot this season. I mean, sure, I think if you're gonna say who's the MVP of the season, it would be between him and Bob.
Yeah,
and even though
it seems
Bob
to be
really
the
saved
consensus.
But I mean,
Bob really was a superhero.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Bob could have just ran a little bit further, and Bob would still be around.
Yeah,
Right? Why would you stop running?
Like, oh, I
Because
shut the
that's what
door.
you do.
Great.
Those things break down doors, Bob.
Yeah, for real, Bob. Get your head out of your ass.
Interestingly enough,
know
when I was
this.
watching the Beyond Stranger Things thing, the Duffer Brothers said that in an early draft, when Bob gave Will the advice, Will killed Bob. And they realized when they cast Sean Astin in the role, they wanted to keep him around longer, so they immediately changed that decision, and he didn't die off right then.
I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Yeah, I don't think that would have gone as
That
well.
poor kid's already fucked up enough. You don't need to add murder to his conscience.
Yeah. He's been through enough shit.
He's been through enough shit. I mean, poor thing's possessed.
And he's been lost in the Upside Down, fending for himself for what seemed like a lifetime.
Yeah, for real. How is he not in a mental institution?
Dude. Like, what did he eat?
Yeah, for real.
I mean,
Maybe that's what that
probably
slug.
survive
Maybe that
without
he ate the
eating.
baby demodog, and that's why he spit it back up. He thought it was succulent octopus or something.
Ew, I don't think that's true.
Well, he had that tube down his throat at some point. But,
Oh yeah.
Man, just shout out to Mike's parents for just knowing where the hell he is, and really just being responsible.
Yes.
They really have a handle on their life, and sometimes you wonder, it's like, where's the little baby kid?
Where the fuck is Holly?
Where's she at right now? We don't know.
Oh shit!
There's the ending.
Holy shit! I forgot about her.
There's a scene at the very end of season 1 where they have the thing at the school, at the very end, and they show up, and Mike is sitting on the back of the ambulance, and they run. Mom runs up, hugging him, make sure you're okay. Dad's talking to, kind of like the medic there. And where's Holly? Did they leave her home? Is she in the car? Is she in the Upside Down? Is she down
What'd
the corner
I do?
street?
Did they get rid of her like they got rid of Will's dog?
What I do? when we rewatched that scene, when it's in season 1 where the whole family's getting mad, Mike's mad because he wants to go out and find Will. They won't let anybody leave because he's missing. Nancy wants to go be with Steve, and the whole family's mad.
Mike
and
ounce
then,
Nancy.
Yeah, and then she goes, "Well, I hope you're happy, Ted." And he's like, "What I do? What I do?" I love it.
Ted's such a douchebag.
Do you think that Mike and Nancy's mom is going to end up with Billy?
Oh,
Is that going to be
no.
Is that going to be the next season?
I don't think so.
Because it was she was annoyed with Ted. It was visible annoyance over and over again. Then she's reading this dirty novel, and then the dude from the cover just rings the doorbell.
Right, she's in her tubby.
And she's in her nighty and what do you call it?
She was living out her perfect little fantasy without, it getting a little too steamy. Because she's married.
Think about how her life probably went. She probably didn't want to marry Ted, but she probably got pregnant with Nancy unexpectedly, and she's just like, well, I guess this is my life now.
Ted was in the bathroom going, "What'd I do?"
Yeah, Ted's got problems.
He's the worst. But I don't know. I don't know if there's really anything else. I would rate this season a solid A. I don't know if it's a plus or minus, but it is a solid A. I'm excited to see the future of this show. Only got 2 seasons left, so we're right now at the midway point of Stranger Things.
I am very excited.
Yeah, I thought that this season it was a great additive. They didn't miss a beat. Sometimes when you have such a good outing or have a good season, it's difficult to follow it up. I mean, look at Dexter.
Sophomore slump.
we bring up that show so much with having like a great season and then the next one and just slump.
Mm-hmm.
When the show didn't do that, it fired on all cylinders and really it took their time and they told a good story. And so I'm really excited to see what comes next from the show. And I would say that that second season is as good as the first, 100%.
I agree. I thought it was great, and I can't wait to see what they do with the next season.
For sure.
Hell yeah. Well, Brando, is there anything else we want to add to this episode before we wrap today?
I think that about covers it, man. I'm really happy that we finally got to get together and talk all about Stranger Things, because this is a show that we were kind of late to the party last year, but we were right on it this year. And, it took a few episodes to get this thing to happen, but I'm glad that we finally got to it, and I can't wait to revisit next year after season 3 or whenever that comes out. I've heard, pray tell, that it may not be released until 2019 due to filming schedule.
Are they doing pulling a Game of Thrones?
Yeah, maybe. But whenever it happens, man, it'd be really awesome to get back with you guys and discuss a little bit more about this.
Hell yeah. Well, let me go through the plugs before we get out of here today, folks. As always, you can check Journey Into Comics out at journeyintocomics.com and on all the different podcasting platforms, whether it's iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, Overcast, Downcast, Podchaser. Doesn't matter. You can also check out Cate's show, Butt Stuff Podcast, right here on the network. You can check out myself and Veronica's other show, Foodies Watching Movies, right here on the network. And you can also check out Game Addicts Podcast at GameAddictsPodcast.com. That's Brando's other show, also a part of our network. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. As always, we really appreciate it. Check us out on all of our different social medias, whether it's at Facebook at Journey Into Comics Podcast, at Instagram at Journey Into Comics, or on Twitter at JiC Network. Get us on YouTube. We also put videos up there, and also definitely subscribe to the Game Addicts Podcast YouTube, because they have live videos, and we love seeing those. I think that's going to do it for today, folks. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was awesome to have the four of us do this kind of amalgamation episode as we did for Stranger Things. Thank you guys. Thanks, Veronica, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was
Absolutely. Fun. Cate, thank you for coming on. It was awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Brando, as always.
Always a pleasure to sit down and nerd out with you, Nate.
Hell yeah, my brother. Well, if that's going to do it for this week of Journey Into Comics, I guess we're going to do the pointing game now. If that's going to do it, I'm Nate.
I'm Brando.
Veronica.
I'm Cate.
And we will see you all next time. Keep filling your brains with shit.